And just like that, we're back. We're talking UFC Kansas. And I say we're back, of course, because we have a week break in fights, but also we're back to reality in the sense that I'm here in the lab. If you guys didn't see me on IG, man, I took a trip down to Miami for UFC 314. I mean, I was sitting front row on the floor. Okay, guys, I was right behind Trump and Dana. I mean, what a time it was. I feel a little bad because I had a lot of opportunities to get amazing content recorded, but I guess I'm really not the greatest social media type of guy, man. Some of you guys may know that. You know, I kind of fell into all this. I mean, I was living my life. That's really what I was doing, man. I was living my life. I had an epic night. I got some content, and I did upload some of that to IG, and I want to get some of them out here on YouTube. I'll make some reels, but take my word. It was an epic night down in Miami, man. Celebs everywhere. Shaquille O'Neal was right in front of me. Patrick Bet-David. I mean, so many big names, not just in the fight game, man, and in the world. Politicians everywhere. Secret Service was surrounding me. I mean, I got some crazy stories. I won't bore you guys with them all here in the intro, but I'll get those out periodically as we move forward. I mean, there's great stories to tell, but I appreciate everyone that's following me in IG, and we're taking a look at the UFC Kansas card here, which now that the UFC 314 card has already passed, I can get over the fact that I didn't get to see Carlos Prates fight live as he was supposed to be taking on Jeff Neal. Now, it doesn't hurt that bad because I get to look forward to sitting on my couch watching him face off against Ian Garry, which is an epic fight. And there's a lot of importance to it in this division, which this division is just so damn stacked, man. Sean Brady comes off that huge Leon Edwards victory. Of course, Shavkat Rakhmonov is waiting for what's next for him. The big fight, of course, is Belal Muhammad taking on Jack Della Maddalena. We'll see if JDM can upset Belal there. And then, I mean, you see Ilia Topuria doing this media tour that he's doing. If you guys haven't caught on, he was on the PBD podcast. He's on the Rogan, just on Rogan. What an epic episode that was. I mean, there's some clear hints that Islam Makhachev is going to be going up in weight. I mean, there's some real buzz behind that. They're saying that there's potential that he goes up to the welterweight division regardless of who wins it. So even if Jack Della Maddalena defeats Belal, we may still see Islam versus him there. He's trying to become that welterweight champion. So you may see, this is what I'm thinking is going to happen, guys. I think we may see Ilia Topuria fighting for the vacant lightweight title, potentially against Arman or Charles Oliveira. Something like that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here, but the welterweight division is stacked. So, I mean, that's what I'll say as far as previewing this fight card. Besides that, there's some interesting characters on it. Anthony Smith is taking on Zhang Ming Yang. I just saw Anthony Smith, man. They were recording on the balcony. Chael Sonnen was there. I was chirping Sonnen. I got him to look over and give me a little smile. I was telling him the story about how I was in the bar as a young kid when he was facing off against Anderson Silva for the first time. And I was chirping to all the Brazilians and chanting that USA, going crazy. I thought we had that victory in the bag. Of course, you guys know what happened next. The upset was pulled off on him. The Brazilians started throwing beer bottles at me, and things got a little crazy there. So he gave me a little wink, man. Chael's a cool dude. Anthony Smith and Dustin Poirier, those guys won't even look over at you. Okay, I mean, they really won't even acknowledge you. Dude, I was partying with the national champion Florida Gators, okay? The basketball national champs, dude. I was sitting right there drinking with those dudes, getting drinks at the bar. They're trying to wave Poirier down right in front of him. These guys are all 7 foot. If you guys know the team I'm talking about, man, they were the main dudes, those 3 huge white guys that were leading the team. Dude, the DP wouldn't even look over at them. Okay, it was crazy. So, Anthony Smith, he's going to be in trouble there. And I mean, overall, this is not a bad fight night card. All right, guys. So I won't hold you guys up. We're going to jump right into the first fight. If you're new here, we're going to start with the first fight, work our way up towards the top. I have timestamps here. We're going to break these fights down, dissect the betting odds and all that. If you guys could catch me on my social media, slam the like and subscribe button. And don't forget, if you guys want to work with me for my official targets for this card, you guys can reach out to me. DM me on Instagram, or you guys can email me as well. And I always have that special offer there. If you're looking to sign up to Bovada, you just reach out to me. I give you that referral link. If you sign up through it, then I will give you my entire slate for free as well. All right, guys, let's go jump into the first fight.
The teller.
We'll head over to the women's bantamweight division, where we have Chelsea Chandler taking on Joselyne Edwards. Edwards still hasn't cracked the 30 marker. She had an early start to her UFC career. She definitely had some up and down performances as to be expected. I think she was about 25 years old when she kicked her career off. You think about the Carol Rosa fight. That was a fight where she spent a lot of time on her back. And that's been one of the deficiencies in her game throughout the years is her takedown defense. But it's getting sharper, man. It's getting better. You take a look at some of her recent performances. I know Tamaris Vidal isn't really a proven grappler, but she went out there, got the submission in the third round. You also take a look at the numbers. I mean, she controlled Vidal for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, hit 4 of 7 of her takedowns, and she stuffed the one takedown attempt that was thrown her way. Again, I know that Vidal is not the most polished there, but I think the development is coming. I really do. Also, the Aileen Perez fight. Okay, she did drop that fight, but I think we're all seeing that Perez is the real deal. Okay, I've been saying she's a little bit more than just a booty shaker. When you take a look at the numbers in that fight, I know she was taken down 6 times, okay, but there was 11 attempts on her. Okay, so she stuffed about half of them, and that shows that she was getting back up, and we saw some reversals from her too, 4 reversals there. She had 5 minutes and 11 seconds of her own control time. I just think that Perez is a different animal than Chandler. Okay, Chandler has had issues making weight. She hasn't made weight in her last 2 fights. Okay, and I got nothing but love for Chelsea. She follows me on IG. She always is showing love. I mean, she'll like a periodic post. Okay, so I would like her to win this fight. But as you guys know, I got to keep it real here. I think we're going to see that continued growth in Edwards' game. I think she's a little bit more technical with her striking. Chandler's tough. She's a little scrappy on the feet. Sometimes, she has some solid performances. But all in all, there's a lot of ups and downs. Okay, you think about where she's turning her back, running away from the opposition. But I mean, you do realize fighting a girl like Norma Dumont, that's a high level fighter. Yana Santos, kind of. At the late stage of her career, I think she even just had a baby. Yana Santos went out there and pretty much dominated her. Really, you take a look at the numbers here. I mean, 135 strikes landed to Chelsea's 73, and I know Chelsea did have some control time, but never really solidified a takedown and just kind of struggled all throughout that fight. It was really Santos that was bullying her throughout it, and I gotta go with Edwards here. I definitely have to go with Edwards here. And like I said, I want Chandler to win this fight, but she's 34. I think that we've seen the best from her. Just 9 professional fights, so you could say she's still getting experience as well. She's getting better and she's sharpening up, getting that cage time. I just don't put a lot of faith in her. I don't like the fact that she keeps missing weight, and I just see a motivated Edwards that should be able to keep this fight standing, or at the very least get back up to her feet and just be a little bit more technical and just be a step ahead. We take a look at the betting odds. Now, I'm not necessarily in agreement with this line. I think that this fight could easily play out closer than Edwards as a minus 240, minus 230. I just don't see a lot of value there. I think the value is on the dog, which you can catch right around plus 190, right around plus 200 to plus 190. I mean, you're getting 2-to-1 odds. I really do believe the value's there. I just don't know how much faith you want to have in backing Chandler. Maybe you want to see how she looks on the scales. But even then, I don't know. Value on the dog. I'll say this fight goes the distance. Edwards wins the decision. You know how it's going to be as far as targeting overs and fight to go the decision. Those are going to be high lines as well. Maybe this is a fight that you just you're working on finishing up on the grill, getting ready for the evening. Okay, maybe you don't really have to be buckled in having a major wager on that fight. Solid matchmaking here as we have 2 very hungry young featherweight fighters in Timothy Cuamba and Roberto Romero. They both have had a little bit of a different start to their UFC careers. Of course, Cuamba came through Dana White's Contender Series, had a solid victory over the Canadian Matteo Vogel. Didn't get signed, went to the regional scene, got another victory over Michael Stack, and then I believe took a short notice fight against Balaji Oki up in the lightweight division. Okay, and I really don't like him up there. He was undersized. I mean, we saw even in his last fight against Lucas Almeida, he seemed to be a little bit undersized in the featherweight division. Okay, so I like this matchup for him here in the sense that he will have a 1-inch height advantage. He'll have a 1-inch reach advantage. The point being is that he's not really going to be undersized here. Now, Roberto Romero took a short notice fight to make his UFC debut against the talented David Onama, who we will be talking about here in a little bit, and had a great start to that fight. If you guys remember, he hurt Onama, dropped him, got on his back, wasn't able to finish the fight. He actually ends up getting dropped later on in that round. And then as the fight progressed, it was really Onama that took it over. And, what's interesting about that fight there is you could kind of look at Romero and say, does he have cardio issues? Or you could chalk it up to the fact that he took the fight on short notice. I'll tell you what, you take a look at one of his more recent losses against Patrick Lihan over at Combate Global. That was a fight that he took the first round, kind of slowed down a little bit. He was taken down in the third. That takedown could have potentially have costed him the fight. And I want to highlight something here. In Cuamba's last fight, which I understand a lot of people are being harsh on him about, the loss to Lucas Almeida, he did drop the first 2 rounds, and he did show to be vulnerable defensively. He gets touched up a little bit, even though technically, offensively, he's not bad, but he does freeze up a little bit. Don't forget, in the third round, he did pick up the pace, and he took that third round. He even solidified a takedown, and I thought that was kind of interesting because I do feel that Cuamba will have an advantage as far as cardio. Okay, I think that he will have the cardio edge. I think that he's more of a technical striker, where he could potentially be a step behind is if he freezes up a little bit in those early exchanges, it could cost him. Okay, because Romero is going to come through with a lot of confidence to kick this fight off. And if he catches Cuamba, there's potential he can knock him out. Okay, there is that type of potential. The thing I like for Cuamba, though, is the fact that he's still never been KO'd. He's just 26 years old. He's young, so he should have good durability. I think he could weather the storm. And then as the fight picks up, I could see him kind of being a step ahead of Romero, technically and with his cardio. Okay, so that's why I'm leaning towards Cuamba's way. And I've been a little bit back and forth. At first, I was like, this dude Roberto, as I was rewatching that Onuma fight, I'm like, this dude has a lot of tenacity. He comes out aggressive, but he's not proven. Okay, he's 8-4-1, and hasn't been fighting on as big of a stage as Cuamba. Okay, he had that Onuma fight, but besides that, Cuamba has been fighting on a bigger stage. And the thing that I also like about Cuamba is he gets a lot of praise from big fighters over in Vegas. Okay, he surrounds himself with a lot of big fighters over there. We know Dewey Cooper puts a lot of work with him on the pads, as I was just showing you guys, and people have high praises for him, and usually that carries some weight. Sometimes friends of friends, they just try to kind of pump up a young kid, and there's nothing really to it. But I'm kind of buying in that he could potentially put it together and hold on to a UFC roster spot, which would start with getting a W here. And let me be clear, I understand that Romero is the fighter here that had a training camp going, as he was supposed to be fighting on that UFC 314 fight card until his opponent, I believe his name Montez, pulled out of that fight. I understand that. So he had the training camp going, whereas Cuamba is technically the short notice call-up fighter here. I understand that. So I still stand behind everything I'm saying, as Cuamba should be the fresher fighter as the fight progresses. We'll see how that goes. A young fighter like Cuamba, who has his back up against the wall, who knew that he was due to get a short notice call at any time, I believe that he would have been prepared for a situation like this, okay, with the people he surrounds himself and just being a young, hungry fighter. Okay, so I understand that. Now, Cuamba, he did open up on some books as a decent favorite, and right now, he is closing I shouldn't say closing, we have plenty of time, but right now he's currently a slight underdog. Okay, we're seeing him right around even odds. We're seeing Romero as like a -120, -130. You can get Cuamba right around +100. He's the very minuscule underdog. And in a close fight, especially with the plus sign next to his name, I see more value there. And I think that Cuamba takes this fight. I think that Cuamba wins either a split decision or he snags up 2 rounds, maybe snags up rounds 2 and 3. It should play out kind of close. We got the high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt Jaqueline Amorim taking on Polyana Viana, who's always fun to watch. But really, Jaqueline is the center of attention here. She comes into this fight now on a 3-fight winning streak. She's 9-1. She's starting to really put it together. She came up short in that UFC debut where people had a lot of faith in her. People already knew what she was about. She came in as the favorite. Sam Hughes is a crafty veteran. Okay, and you have to note, at the time, Amorim only had about 6 professional fights. Okay, so she came in with all the jiu-jitsu experience, but she's putting together the overall mixed martial arts game. Okay, and you have to be impressed with what we've seen from her. Finished the undersized Montserrat Ruiz, but actually used some of her striking in that fight. She's starting to show the development with her striking, which we know she's putting in a lot of work over at American Top Team. Okay, that's a great thing for her, okay? Because American Top Team knows exactly what to do with the high-level jiu-jitsu player as far as rounding out their overall game. But at the end of the day, she still has the dangerous BJJ to finish you up quickly like she did against McKenna and Demopoulos, okay? Finishing them both up in the first round. The McKenna one was nasty. Caught her in that armbar there and caught Demopoulos in an armbar as well. I mean, she's always live to snag your arm up Ronda Rousey style. All right, and on the other hand, Polyana Viana is a fighter. Once upon a time, I thought she was going to be cut by the UFC, just a while back, right? She was on a 3-fight losing skid. If she would have dropped the Emily Whitmire fight, I think there's no question she would have been cut. Okay, she was able to string off some W's here and there, but take a look at the level of competition. Like I said, Emily Whitmire, Mallory Martin, okay, the Jinyu Frey knockout victory. I mean, that's great. You got to give her credit that she went out there and got a knockout, all right, especially the way she did it. It was very exciting to watch. Okay, but Jinyu Frey, the former LFA champion, she was never really all that. She was up there in age, and I just don't put that much stock into it. I mean, we'll note that she could potentially be dangerous with her hands if Amorim gets a little crazy and reckless out there. But good luck banking on Viana to go out there and to sprawl and brawl, land heavy strikes and damage Amorim. I just think that Amorim is really starting to develop right now. Let me just highlight once again, the major red flag was in her last 2 fights, although we know Jillian Robertson's a high-level grappler, so is Amorim, and I think that they've gotten some working together. I know Robertson has trained at ATT throughout the years, okay, but it was Robertson that got her down to the mat and really dominated her, finished her up with strikes down in the mat, actually flattened her out. But how about the Yasman Lucindo submission loss that she just took too? Got caught in an arm triangle choke by Lucindo, who we know is talented, but has had some up and down performances. I still think Lucindo's a good fighter, but she's young, and I don't think that she's really shown she hasn't shown to be as dangerous down on the mat as an Amorim. So I think you guys know exactly where I'm going with this. I think that Jaqueline Amorim is going to find a submission here. I do. Viana's only been subbed twice, but they were both in her last 2 fights. Excuse me, one was a TKO, okay, but the ground game still ended up getting her to be finished. And I think that Amorim can find a finish down on the mat. It will be via sub, though. We go take a look at the line, and as you see, the masses are definitely in agreement with my confidence here. I mean, you take a look at the money line. She's a minus 435. All right, this is a fight that we could definitely potentially be talking about, as we will have a prop edition video for this card. We definitely want to take a look at Amorim to win this fight via sub and see if we can get that to come down. I think it's very likely she pulls off the submission, and that will be my call on the fight. I'm going to say she gets a first-round submission. Without a doubt, one of my most anticipated fights on the card, Cameron Saaiman takes on Malcolm Wellmaker. Wellmaker is making his UFC debut coming off that crazy knockout victory that he had on this past season. Meanwhile, Saaiman had a very impressive victory on DWCS a while back, got a contract, and has had some ups and downs. I mean, don't forget, he was successful early on in the octagon as he went out there and won 3 fights in a row. Even got 2 knockouts, even though it was against lower level competition in Stephen Kozlow and Terrence Mitchell. But then he ran into some turbulence, right? You take a look at the last 2 fights, came up short against C-Rod. I call C-Rod the crafty veteran, but it's kind of crazy to think even what his age was at the time of that fight, right? He's a younger fighter, but C-Rod fights like a veteran. He came up a little short in that fight. If you take a look at the stats, if you rewatch that fight, it wasn't like he was dominated. The numbers were close. The Talbot fight, that was a tough one, okay? He was finished up in the 2nd round and was really never in that fight, okay? He was being dominated. I would have liked to seen him look to change levels and test the grappling of Talbot earlier on in that fight, okay? There was some weak attempts to get the fight down to the mat, but by that time he was already hurt, he was impaired, and we never really got to see that. But that also could be a sign of Cameron not really having a lot of confidence in his wrestling, okay, which obviously isn't his strong suit. I mean, it's his striking where he really thrives in the cage. He'll change stances. He's very technical. And, what he has going for himself here is, all right, when you take a look at Wellmaker's last fight, that big knockout victory that he had over Adam Bromhold, okay, Bromhold was very reckless in that fight. He kept jumping in and throwing these big lead hooks, these leaping hooks, which eventually led him to be knocked out. That's exactly how he got KO'd. He ran right into a counter overhand from Wellmaker. Okay, I don't think that Saaiman is near the same fighter of a Bromhold. Okay, Saaiman fights way more strategic with his striking. He's more defensively sound, and that could be a little bit of an issue here for Wellmaker, because even in that fight against the sloppy Adam Bromhold, you take a look at these numbers. These numbers are based off the one fight that Wellmaker had under the UFC banner, right? DWCS. Okay, he landed 8.05 strikes, but he absorbed 7.65. Just to show you that that fight was a lot more competitive than people remember. Okay, just kind of remembering the knockout. All right, I know the fight didn't last that long, but Wellmaker, to me, at least where he's at right now, shows to have defensive deficiencies. I really do believe that. Now, what he has going for himself, though, is that he's just a raw talent. Okay, he has a solid frame. He's athletic, and offensively, he's nasty, and he carries big power. Okay, that could be an issue for Cameron. Okay, coming off that knockout loss, he may get hit with the big strike here and really lose his confidence, and we may see Wellmaker just take this fight over. I've been very torn on which way I was going to go with this fight. I'm telling you guys, I was sitting here rewatching fight after fight of both these fighters, whatever I could pull up, because I've really been on the fence here. Now, what's pointing me towards my final decision here, which is I am going to go with Cameron Saaiman, is that I feel if this fight goes to the judges' scorecards, I do feel it will favor him. Okay, if we see a knockout, I think it definitely favors Wellmaker, although it's not out of the realm that Cameron can't land his own KO. I mean, he's dangerous and tricky there. Another thing that you have to note is that Wellmaker has fought very low-level competition. Okay, very low-level competition. One of his more recent L's, one of the only L's you could bring up was a bout that took place when he was an amateur a couple of years back. Other than that, though, I mean, he keeps getting his hand raised, but it's against low-level competition. And I just think that Cameron is definitely a big step up in competition, and I have a gut feeling that Cameron will get his hand raised and somewhat of a close fight as it goes to the judges' scorecards. Okay, that's what my gut's telling me here. Wellmaker's 30 years old too, man. Just 8 pro fights, but he's not a spring chicken, which you could look at that one way or the other. I mean, it could also mean it could benefit him in the sense that he's a little bit more physically mature than the 24-year-old Cameron, who has more professional experience, and we know, or he's been around the fight game since he was a kid. I think his dad owns a promotion over in South Africa. I mean, he's really surrounded himself in the fight game since a young age, and I think that's going to pay dividends here. I know he's going to be hungrier than ever. Okay, he has to be extremely motivated. I was checking out his IG. I mean, he's getting some serious training in. Wellmaker trains at a smaller fight camp as well. I think that Cameron will be a little bit more prepared, but he could be as motivated and prepared as he wants. If he gets hit with that one big strike, it could shake things up. But I'm going to bet against that happening here. I'm going to say Cameron gets the job done. You take a look at the odds here. He opened up as a plus 110 over here, and now he's a minus 103. So we've been actually kind of seeing that, some slight action coming in on Cameron. And at the very end of the day, this is a fight where the line is in agreement with what I'm saying, and this is a tough fight to pick. This is really a tough fight to pick. And give me your thoughts below. This is a fight where I would love to hear who you guys have winning this fight, because I think we're going to see everyone kind of split, but actually I wouldn't even be surprised if we see more people pointing towards Wellmaker just based off that big KO and the physical intangibles and traits that he brings into the cage here. But Cameron's tricky, man. So give me him to win the fight via decision. Another bantamweight matchup on the early portion of this card. Blackshear takes on Haley Alateng. Blackshear has been very active. That this will be his 4th fight within the year, and he was just in there a couple of weeks ago as he had the comeback victory over Cody Gibson. If you remember, he did go through some turbulence early on in that fight, okay? And then also, if you want to run back the Montel Jackson fight, which was 3 fights ago for him, of course, he got knocked out in just 18 seconds. So we've seen him go through some turbulence, specifically early on in his fights. And even with the fighter like Alateng, who's not that dangerous, he hasn't shown to be that dangerous, I think that you still have to be a little bit cautious that something could play out hectic for Blackshear early on. But what I really like from him, if you want to talk about him in a positive sense, is that he is a nasty grappler. Okay. And we saw that again in the Gibson fight as he just took things over and eventually put him in a Kimura there. I mean, he really knows what he's doing down in the mat. You take a look, out of his 16 victories, 11 of them coming by way of sub. I mean, he's polished up there. Alateng has only been subbed once before. Okay. So he's not a fighter that really shows to be vulnerable there. But at the end of the day, I think that Blackshear is just going to have success with his grappling overall. Even if he doesn't find that sub, I think he could still use his grappling to score points. He could control Alateng. And as far as the stand-up goes, if he doesn't get hit with something something crazy and things don't get hectic, I do expect that he would still probably be outpointing Alateng. Although that's not a guarantee. I would definitely like to see him mix things up. Okay, you don't really want to see him in a straight kickboxing match, even though I still favor him there, as he will have a nice size advantage. You'll have almost a 4-inch reach advantage. He's a taller fighter. He's 5 inches taller. He's the better athlete. Okay, so he has a lot of things going for himself there, but I think he should still look to mix things up. And this is looking like a unanimous decision for Blackshear here, as long as nothing crazy happens. And I just don't have a lot of faith that Alateng is going to be able to go out there and pull something crazy and slick off. So you take a look at the betting odds. Blackshear is a big favorite. He's a minus 330. Now, you know, I've been noticing this with Blackshear. Okay, you take a look at his odds throughout his UFC career. I mean, people have faith in him. People, you tend to see him get slammed a little bit. You see the lines creeping up high. Sometimes it hasn't proven to be warranted. We've seen him drop the ball, but I don't know. Maybe I would lean towards that being a little bit high for my liking, but I do like him in this fight. And he should get his hand raised. Minus 330. Maybe you mix it in a parlay. Not a ton of value on that, though. So this was a fight that was supposed to take place a couple cards ago, but we also note that wasn't even the initial matchup for both fighters. Both these fighters have had multiple fights fall through, okay? But as Chris Gutierrez was stepping in to take on John Castañeda, initially it was more of Castañeda's original fight, right? If you will. The fact that both of these fighters have had more time to plan for each other, I do believe it actually favors Gutierrez, as Gutierrez has now had more time to plan for this date. If you guys remember when I broke this fight down, I still liked Gutierrez even hopping in on short notice. I think that he is the better striker here. I really like the way he implements the calf kicks. You guys know he's notoriously known for having some of the better leg kicks in the game. You know, his last fight against Quang Lee wasn't the best, but at the end of the day, he did dig deep and get his hand raised. You take a look at his losses. It's against high-level competition like Pedro Munoz and Song Yadong. Other than that, he's got in there and has taken care of business. But you also must note the bulk of his UFC career has been matched up against lower-level talent. Okay, you definitely can say that. I mean, you take a look through the resume, and there's not a lot of big names. Of course, Frankie Edgar will stand out to you, but that was at the tail end of his career. But John Castañeda, you know, when I think of John Castañeda, some people really like what they see with him. I've never been the biggest believer in him. You take a look at that last fight against Daniel Marcos. He was very timid. Once he felt how those striking exchanges were going, you saw he had a lack of confidence. He was on the back foot. I think that Gutierrez can implement some of those same tactics that Marcos did, being more technical. But I really want to see Gutierrez step on the gas. Okay, if he's pressing, I think it'll pay dividends for him. I really believe he shouldn't look to just sit back and counter. I think he should look to take this fight, because we saw in that last fight that if you do that to Castañeda, yeah, he'll fall in line. All right, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The Daniel Santos fight, that was crazy. If you remember, he almost knocked out Willie Cap, but then Santos came back and caught him with the strike. Other than that, not too much else to talk about. I mean, we'll highlight the third-round submission victory he had over Miles Johns. Caught him in an arm triangle choke, showcasing those grappling abilities that he has. That without a doubt was the biggest victory of his career. But I'm going to say that he's not going to be able to get this fight down to the mat often enough to really have success, the success that he needs. I'm going to say that he doesn't find that submission on Gutierrez, and Gutierrez will be the fighter that's looking to outpoint him. He just lands a little bit more, and he'll be up on the strike count, and that will lead Gutierrez to getting a victory. And it's not out of the realm that Gutierrez can get a KO. If we were to see a finish in this fight, I could see Gutierrez potentially countering Castañeda if Castañeda gets overly aggressive. I could see something like that. Gutierrez is pretty sharp offensively. Now, let's take a look at the line, where we see this is a fight where it's really pick your poison. Okay, this is a very close fight as far as the odds go. We're seeing Gutierrez right around a minus 120. Prematurely, we're seeing Castañeda as a underdog, if you will. But this is essentially a pick'em type fight. So I like Gutierrez. Okay, Gutierrez just came through for me multiple times, although against lower level opposition, he's been pretty game. And I'm going to say he digs deep enough and just is a little bit more technical with his striking. Okay. But a big factor in this fight will be who has that dog in him, who's looking to press the action and march forward. I think that will pay dividends for either fighter, whoever really looks to go out there and take this fight. This is one of those kind of matchups. Ahmad Hassanzada looks to make his UFC debut. He's taking on Evan Elder. It's great to see Elder stepping back in the cage. I mean, this is a young fighter that I really believe shows promise. He's just 9-2, but that's not really indicative of who he is. Okay, you take a look at his last loss. Let's note right off the rip, I mean, that really wasn't a legit loss against Nazim Sadykhov, a fighter that has shown to be a beast. Okay, and Sadykhov also has a victory over Hassanzada as well. He knocked him out not too long ago. But in that Sadykhov fight, it was Elder that was taking it over. They had to stop the fight due to it was a cut over the eye, if I remember correctly, but it was a pretty bad cut. And I don't know, man. I think it was Elder that was taking that fight over. It was kind of close, but Elder looked great in that fight. Since then, he goes out there, defeats two low-level fighters in Gennaro Valdez and Darius Flowers. And if he goes out here and gets a victory over Hassanzada, it's not going to be a big name, okay? But Elder has plenty of time to put it all together, and it's not really a bad thing that the UFC is kind of slow playing him with the level of competition, with him just being 28. Okay, so I like it. He's a well-rounded fighter. He comes in great physical shape. And I think that he should be able to outgun Hassanzada here. I mean, you take a look at Hassanzada's last fight, even against Dylan Montello, who Montello was a cool story. If you guys remember, I think he was the fighter where his wife was watching the fights next to Dana on the Dana White's looking for a fight, and he went out there and he got a victory and got an opportunity to fight in the UFC, even as to fight on Dana White's Contender Series, even as old as he was. He came short, but Montello was outlanding Hassanzada, and he was up early on in that fight, and he kind of slowed down. And you can give Hassanzada credit for showing to have that dog in him and really never looking for a way out, and just he was the fighter that dug deeper and prevailed. As he did get a finish there, right? He got that submission in the third round, got that rear naked choke. I just don't think that he's going to be able to implement those same type of tactics against a fighter like Elder, who has great cardio and who's very well rounded. And I think you're going to see that it's Elder who's the fighter who's just a clear step ahead with his striking and just mixing it all together. He's the superior talent, kind of like Hassanzada's story. I mean, he's came from like a wild scene and all that. I mean, he's experienced some stuff, and you got to respect where he's gotten right now. But I don't think that he's going to be able to prevail over a talent like Evan Elder. You know, if I'm cutting straight to the chase, and I wouldn't be surprised if Evan Elder finds a finish using his crisp and more technical striking. Okay, he's a -390 right now. He's a big favorite, and that's exactly what I was expecting when I saw this fight lined up. I was hoping the line would have been a little bit lower. It's not the case. People are seeing the same things that I'm seeing, and people know about Elder. Okay, people, he trains at a big gym, and he surrounds himself with good people, and this is a fighter that when he's 31, you're going to see him matched up against some big names. Now, this is a fun fight for me, okay? You got two veterans of the flyweight division. Matt Schnell, a fighter that I brought on MMA Live Discussion back in the day. I did a long interview with him. A great dude. I've kept in touch with him a little bit throughout the years on IG. You know, little likes, little comments here and there. Man, he's a fun dude. Great dude. I ended up finding out on that interview that he actually went to my middle school. He was a couple years younger than me, but his parents were split, and I guess he was in South Florida for a little bit of his younger life. That was kind of interesting as we're doing the interview, as we found that out. But I've always wished Matt Schnell well when he's fighting in the octagon, okay? And I am going to be wishing him well here as well. Jimmy Flick's a dude that follows me in IG and shows some love here and there too, and I kind of like what he's about. Seems like he's like a chill dude. I know he's kind of in to the MMA betting world as well. I mean, he's shown some signs of that for sure. I don't know if he's still into that, but I mean, he used to do some live videos where he'd be sitting in his bed going over the betting odds. Okay, so that's the type of dude Flick is. And what I also like about Flick is he's a different type of fighter. Okay, he has high level submission abilities. Okay, they're unorthodox, but you have to say he has high level submission abilities. If you play around with him and you make one little mistake, he can catch you. All right, we've seen that from him throughout the years. He had finally a bounce back victory over Malcolm Gordon, where he was able to catch him in that arm triangle choke when he was down. Okay, came back and got that victory. That was on that Canada card where all the Canadian fighters were losing. I mean, you take a look back. He submitted Cody Durden in the first round with the flying triangle choke. I mean, he was pulling off those types of subs in the regional scene too. You take a look back into where he was on the LFA scene and all of that. Okay, that's what he does. All right, he's an unorthodox type of fighter. This isn't a fighter that's going to march you down with crisp striking. He's not extremely well-rounded. And when things aren't going good for him, he's going to get bullied and beaten down, as we saw in the Charles Johnson fight, which that was a big return fight. That's when he was coming back from retirement. All right, which that's a whole nother thing too, man. He retired very early on in his career. He retired coming off the Durden victory. Okay, he had gotten a contract off the submission victory on Dana White's Contender Series over Nate Smith, made his UFC debut, pulled off a beautiful submission, and then he retires from the fight game. So if that doesn't kind of show you that he has some things going on, outside the cage, hopefully he's gotten those all together. But he's a different type of character, man, and you take that for what you will. Matt Schnell has definitely gone through adversity as of recently. He has had a very tough time winning fights. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights, and he's taken some brutal KOs. Everyone remembers the knockout loss that he took to Steve Erceg, and for whatever reason, the ref was coming up to him kind of joking and saying, hey, man, you got flatlined. If you guys saw that video on IG, I kind of wanted to ask Schnell about it. I just didn't want to bring it up. I didn't have the heart to do it, but I would have loved to have really got the perspective of what Schnell was thinking or what he thought about in retrospect to that ref coming up to him, because I'm sure it looked worse than what it was. I bet you that ref's kind of a friend of Schnell's, maybe to an extent, like a business friend. They're in the cage together and was trying to just kind of make the situation light, if you will. But I mean, he's been having a tough time. At the end of the day, Schnell is the fighter that's going to have the striking advantage here. He's the more well-rounded fighter. But if he makes one little mistake, he can take another L here. Okay, he's 35 years old. There's just no question that if he makes one mistake, something wild could happen and Flick could potentially catch him in a sub. And I'm sorry, let me just highlight the Sumadarji fight, which that fight was one of the greatest fights we've ever seen in the cage. What a wild fight that was, if you guys remember. And at the end of the day, he did prevail. He caught him in that triangle choke as they were going to war, but he took a lot of damage early on in that fight as well. Listen, I got Matt Schnell winning this fight. I think that he would be smart to slow the pace of this fight down, for him to be just very grounded and just be cerebral with the moves that he makes. But he can't let it affect him to the point where he's not being offensive enough and lets Flick get into his groove. But this is Matt Schnell's fight. But I hate to do it. You guys know I got to do it right now. I got to ring the bells. So this is a potential trap alert based off where the betting odds are. Okay, trap alert, ring the bells off. Flick is tricky, man, and Matt Schnell has been having a tough time getting his hand raised, and he's taking a lot of damage, and I just don't know if Schnell should be a 3-1 favorite as he's closing in on being a minus 300. I'm going to say trap alert, but I want to be clear. I have Schnell winning this fight, and if he shows up, if he's good and ready to go, he may dominate this fight and even get like a TKO stoppage on Flick, similarly to how we saw Charles Johnson do it. I mean, there is that type of potential. Schnell gets the decision at the end of the day, gets the decision victory in a wild one. This should be a fun fight, but trap alert, boys. At 185, Ikram Aliskerov takes on André Muniz. Aliskerov looking to bounce back with a victory as he comes in off that devastating knockout loss against Robert Whittaker. And that was a huge fight for him, because if he would have got a victory there, I mean, there was some big-time matchups that were set to take place for him. Okay, so he looks to get the train back on the tracks here. Muniz is a very dangerous grappler. The thing that Aliskerov has going for himself is that that's what he does. That's his bread and butter, man. He's an excellent grappler. He also shows to be the more well-rounded fighter. The deficiency that we've seen in his game, when things aren't going his way, you take a look at his 2 losses, he's getting hurt badly on the feet, and I really just don't see Muniz being that much of a threat there. So Aliskerov really has that going for himself here. Now, I don't want to completely overlook the grappling threat that Muniz brings to the table, because 13 of his 24 victories have come by way of sub. If Aliskerov makes a mistake, yes, he can be caught with something, or if he gets caught up in just a heavily grappling-orientated type of fight, I mean, it's not out of the realm that Muniz can hold his own, okay? He's solid there, right? You take a look at the Park fight. He had 9 minutes and 34 seconds of control time. He was 11 of 14 on his takedowns, but I just don't believe that Park is near the same fighter as an Aliskerov there. So I want to be clear there. I think that Aliskerov, he should be able to defend and be just fine down there. But even on the feet, like I said, I mean, he better be on his P's and Q's, man. All right, because he took some damage there. He's had about a year to rest up. But in my opinion, Aliskerov, if he comes in ready to go here, He's rested up, and we see a vintage form of him. I just think that he's the much more complete fighter. And how can you not forget when Muniz, as of recently, was getting battered by a fighter like Paul Craig, okay? Got ground and pounded by Paul Craig, okay? I could see something very similar happening here where Aliskerov's kind of defending and controlling down in the mat and starts to unload with some ground and pound, okay? I mean, you take a look at the Brendan Allen fight. He actually gets submitted there as well, even though we know Allen's a high-level grappler. You see him get caught in a rear naked choke. I mean, I think that Aliskerov, he has opportunities to go a couple different ways here. Muniz has been very flaky. This was a fighter once upon a time a lot of us had very high aspirations for, including myself. I mean, when he was cruising in, going out there, just submitting fighter after fighter, submitting Jacare Souza, okay, the jiu-jitsu ace, and kind of a legend of the mixed martial arts game, even though he was older still, going out there, submitting him in the first round with that inverted armbar. I mean, I was like, dude, this guy's going to be a terror in this division. And as far as I'm concerned, he kind of seems to be a little bit of a head case. And I think that Aliskerov should be a clear step ahead. We'll see how it goes. I mean, should Aliskerov be a minus 675? That's debatable. I definitely have him winning this fight. I mean, that line is pretty egregious based on the fact that Aliskerov is coming in off a brutal KO loss and Muniz is still somewhat dangerous. I don't know. That line, I got to say the value's in the dog. I would much rather have, of course, obviously, I would much rather have, or I think it's more warranted that you would be locking up Aliskerov as he was like a minus 450, minus 500. But maybe I'm being greedy there because maybe that's just not realistic. But that's where I would like him. I don't know what you're going to do with that minus 675 line, but I'm going to say that Aliskerov gets Muniz out of there. I'm going to say he finds a way to get him out of there. It could be ground and pound. It could be landing a big strike on the feet. Maybe even hurts Muniz and sets up some type of sub similarly to how Allen finished him up there as well. At 170, we have two fighters that are coming off questionable losses, right? You could say Randy Brown may have deserved to get his hand raised against Brian Battle. I would disagree with you. I think it was a very close fight. And you guys know when I have official plays locked in on a specific fighter after the fact, especially a couple months, weeks later, I'll admit if we really didn't win it. And I think that Battle did just enough to take that fight, but it was very close. Okay, on the other hand, Dalby took an L against the king of robberies and Renat Fakhradinov, right? He took an L against him. That was a fight where the majority of the MMA media had Dalby winning, although it was pretty much split down the middle. And that fight did take place in Saudi Arabia, where, you know, we've seen Fakhradinov just get these questionable decisions, even if you think to the fight that he had after that, which the matchup against Dalby was nothing of the same as the victory that he had over Carlos Leal. Just to highlight that, I mean, that was really an egregious robbery. The Dalby fight was close, but if Dalby would have got the nod there, Dalby would have been on a solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight winning streak. Okay, he's 40 years old, but he's still moving pretty damn well in there. Okay, he has great cardio. You guys know he's always huffing and puffing. He has this weird way of breathing heavily, and it keeps him going. Great, he has great movement in the cage. He's well-rounded. He's been around the block for some time, dating back to all the way when he had the draw against Darren Till in his second UFC fight. I mean, that was a solid performance there, and that was coming off a victory over Zaleski dos Santos in his UFC debut. Okay, this was a fighter that was on my radar from back then, and when it's all said and done, I mean, he had a decent, solid UFC career, but I think he wants to make some more noise before he goes out here. And with Brown, you could similarly say he's had a successful UFC career, but he was never able to take it to that next level, right? You take a look at all the big fights. We talked about the Battle L. If he was able to get a W there, he would have been on a 4-fight winning streak, and you would have been seeing him matched up against a big name right now. Okay, so that was a really tough loss for him in the later portion of his career. Even early on, though, the loss to Jack Della Maddalena, or you take a look at the Vicente Luque KO loss that he had back then, the respectable loss against Bilal Muhammad early on in his career. The Nico Price one was a tough one. Okay, that one, the hammer fist that he ate while he was on top, that was crazy. Okay, that was a tough way to go out, but he bounced back, and he's had his scattered W's or his little winning streaks against those middle of the road type of fighters, the Alex Oliveras, the Jared Goodins. A lot of people thought that he lost the Chaos Williams fight. It was a good one. But I want to be clear in stating that I don't think that Randy Brown is that guy. Okay, I don't think he's that guy. But I do think that he can go out there and defeat a 40-year-old Nicolas Dalby. I do. All right. I like the length that Brown has. I want to see him using his footwork, striking from the outside. I expect this fight to play out very closely. Okay, that's what I expect to see here. I think that this should be a dogfight, a war, to an extent, you know what I mean? But a war in the sense that it'll be back and forth. It'll be close and it'll be intense in there. But at the end of the day, I could see Randy Brown landing some significant damage at range that could help him solidify some rounds. I want to see him keeping this fight standing. We could potentially see Dalby looking to change levels and mix things up, and maybe we see Dalby digging deep in the later rounds and snagging up a third round that gives him the fight. Okay, this is a close fight here, but I feel more comfortable taking Randy Brown, a hungry Randy Brown who just needs to create that space. Okay, use that footwork and create that space. And Dalby likes to use that footwork too and circle around. I could see him potentially playing into that a little bit where Brown could have some success. So at the end of the day, give me Randy Brown to win this fight. I'll call a split decision here. Give me Randy Brown via split decision. So he's a minus 220. I think the fact that I'm calling a split decision kind of shows my cards. I don't see a ton of value on that line. I would like Randy Brown more as like a minus 150 if I was to bet him here. Okay, so I clearly like the dog action on Dalby. But still, give me Randy Brown to prevail and get that long hand raised. We got a very intriguing middleweight matchup here between Michel Pereira and Abus Magomedov. Both these fighters show to have dynamic and long striking. They also, in my opinion, have underrated grappling. All right, and there's a lot of signs pointing to this being just an entertaining matchup. This should be a good one here. Now, if we do see a knockout take place, I would favor it being Pereira landing on Magomedov, as we've seen him finished up with strikes twice before, and I just believe that Pereira is a little bit more of a dynamic and fluid striker. Now, we have seen Pereira finished with strikes, or if you take a look at his numbers here, it'll say that he has 3 KO/TKO losses. One of them is not real. That was the Diego Sanchez TKO loss where he threw a knee, so scratch that. All right, the other one was in his last bout against Anthony Hernandez, which was a 5-round fight against a fighter like Fluffy. And Pereira dug deep. He made it all the way to the 5th round. He eventually was finished up. I'd pretty much guarantee you throw Magomedov in there with Fluffy in a 5-round fight, and he gets finished up there as well. Okay, so besides that, he was knocked out once before back in the day by Dusko Trjovic. That was outside of the UFC, but I could see Pereira landing something here that really shakes things up. And as far as the grappling goes, I think that it should be very competitive. And I'm interested to see how that would play out. It's kind of hard for me to say. Magomedov chose to be pretty polished up there. We saw him dig deep in that last fight against Bruno Ferreira, where he eventually broke him down and got that 3rd-round arm triangle choke. We know that he's pretty polished up there. But like I said earlier, so is Pereira. Pereira has good jiu-jitsu, right? He's been stringing off some submission victories as of recently as well. He doesn't just go out there and land those flashy strikes on you. He'll get you down to the mat and he'll sub you. So I'm intrigued into that aspect of the fight. I want to make that clear here. But I'll tell you what, in the Bruno Ferreira fight, I think that fight played out a little bit closer than maybe some of you guys remember. Ferreira was in that fight early on. Things got sloppy. They were both breathing pretty heavily, as to be expected. But with both these fighters, they don't have the best cardio. But I think that Pereira moves very differently than Ferreira. Okay, and I like the Hulk, Bruno. He has big-time power, but I think that he gets a little bit more clunky as the fight progresses, where I think Pereira can still have a little bit more zap and has better footwork. So I believe that's one sign that points towards Pereira having a little bit more success as this fight goes. This is a 3-rounder, of course, where Pereira was just in there in a 5-round fight. I think that he'll be more prepared for this fight as it progresses. And I know that Ebus has been in 5-round fights as well. I understand that. So maybe he's ready to go there as well. But I definitely am leaning towards Pereira. I just think that he's the more dynamic striker. I really liked what I've seen from him throughout the years leading up to that Hernandez fight. I really have. I mean, went out there, submitted Oleksiejczak and Poteria in his last 2 victories. He went out there and ran through André Petroski, which Petroski was taking that fight on short notice, and he was undersized and all that. But still, the way he did it was phenomenal. Before that, he went to war upon Zanibio. And, really just ever since that Tristan Connolly fight where he gassed out and back then looked to be a fighter that was nowhere near someone you should be keeping on your radar. I mean, he really has taken his game to another level, right? And that's included in the Diego Sanchez loss, which he threw that illegal knee, but he was dominating that fight. Went out there, slapped Zaleem Mamadaev around, and he started just to pick things up, man. And I think he's taken his game to a whole nother level. He's 31 years old. I think that he's hungry for a W here, of course. Not to say that Abbas isn't hungry for a W as well. I understand that he wants to go out there and do his own thing, but he's 34 years old, and I don't know. I just think that signs are pointing towards Pereira just being a little bit of a step ahead in a fight that probably will take place on the feet for the most part. And, we've seen Magomedov make those little mistakes as those striking exchanges go on. We saw Strickland break him down in the second round, right? He really slowed down. I mean, both these fighters have suspect gas tanks, but we saw Strickland slow down there. When you want to run back the fight against Lewis Taylor over in the PFL, okay, he got knocked out in just 33 seconds, made a mistake there, got caught with the flush shot. I could see something similar happening to what happened there. So I just feel more comfortable taking Pereira here. And I'm thinking this fight should take place on the feet. And I'm thinking we could see a finish here. I think that someone may make a mistake that cost them the fight. So give me Michel Pereira to bounce back with a big victory here and start to get some momentum going. He'll look to build another winning streak moving forward off this fight. And we can take a look at the numbers real quick. I mean, you can argue to why the numbers look the way they do, but it does not look good for Abbas Magomedov as he's only landing 2.65 compared to absorbing 3.35. Well, on the other hand, not to say Pereira's numbers look amazing, but at least he's landing more than he's being landed on. And at the end of the day, you guys know I like my Pereira. He's came through for me quite often. All right, he's put some money in my pocket, and he's just a minus 155 here. And I get why he's not like a big time favorite because Magomedov does check off a lot of boxes, and he's getting in some work with the fighter that we were just talking about in Aliskerov. I know that they've been getting in some work together, so he surrounds himself with good people. So does Pereira. Give me Michel Pereira to get a finish in this fight. And minus 155, I think that line is by no means out of reach. It's not. I mean, this is, as far as the numbers go, it's closely capped. I don't mind Pereira at a minus 155 money line, and I say he gets a finish via strikes. In the featherweight division, we have Giga Chikadze, who's still ranked number 12th in this division. He's taking on David Onama, a fighter that comes in on a 4-fight winning streak. We were talking earlier about the Roberto Romero fight. He did go through some early adversity, but showed once again, as he has in the past, that he is durable. He never looks for a way out, and he will strive to come back and get redemption on you. Okay, we've seen that from him in a couple fights. You think about the crazy knockout victory he had over Gabriel Benitez. That was a wild one. I remember being in the elevator watching that fight on my phone. I was at the Hard Rock in Hollywood in South Florida. I was jumping up and down in the elevator. People thought I was crazy. I had an official playing him there. Showed good grappling abilities against Garrett Armfield, and he has shown to be a well-rounded fighter. So far in the UFC. So that's something that he checks off. He's a well-rounded fighter. He can grapple. He could strike. He's durable. Never looks for a way out. He has a lot of heart. He did lose to Nate Landwehr, and he went through a lot of adversity in the Gabriel Santos fight. But you have to understand, Gabriel Santos, I think we're all catching on, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but you guys know I've been saying that Gabriel Santos is the truth for a long time, all right, dating back to when he got robbed against Lerone Murphy. Okay, I was saying that this kid is a stud. I was hearing that from way back then, that he was the real prospect coming out of Brazil. And listen, he went through some adversity in that fight, but at the end of the day, he knocked Santos out, started to pull those bow and arrows out, kept sticking to Tim, was doing his Adesanya impression. I'll be honest, I wasn't crazy about it, especially for the fact they had no beef, they had no bad blood. I thought it was kind of disrespectful just standing over him doing that. I feel like if I was Santos or if I was part of his team, that would be a problem if someone did that to one of my boys in the cage. I just think that there was really no need to do that. It was kind of weird, but I guess he had a lot of emotion flowing through his veins as he came back. But still, I think some of you guys can relate to me there. I mean, he was standing over him. And after that, victories over Jonathan Pierce and the Roberto Romero fight. Now, he's taken on Giga Chikadze here, who is a very talented striker. I think that Giga, when he's hitting on all cylinders, he could be a threat to anybody with his stand-up. Okay, if you make a mistake, he could club you upside the head with the head kick. I mean, that's the type of striking abilities he brings to the table. The issue I have with Giga is that he's been extremely inactive. He's been averaging about one fight per year over the last 3 years. Okay, he recently stepped back in there against Arnold Allen, took that first round, and then just slowed down mightily, dropped the last 2 rounds. And I feel like he's the type of fighter, when you pressure him and you bring the fight to him, you can take it over. Okay, you can take it over. And I think that that's kind of the fighter that Anima is. Anima is going to be the aggressor. He's going to keep marching forward. He's never going to look for a way out. So if you don't starch him, you don't put him out, or if you don't really, really hurt him to the point that he's kind of impaired and you could maybe take 2 rounds, 3 rounds like that, I think you're going to be in for some trouble. So that's why I like Anima here. He's 30 years old. He's more in his prime. He's the hungrier fighter. I think that a lot of signs are pointing towards Anima getting his hand raised, and that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to say Anima gets the job done. I'm going to say, listen, he carries big power, all right? About more than half of his finishes of wins come by way of KO. He can knock Giga out, but I'm going to say that Giga shows once again to be pretty durable, even though he'll start to get battered and beat up a little bit. He'll make it to the final bell, but I'm going to say that Anima actually wins a decision, which is very rare for him because he is a fight finisher, okay? He's only gone to a decision twice out of his 13 victories, but Giga's only been finished once. That was by sub. I don't know if Anima has submission abilities, but I don't think he's going to catch him in a sub. I think this is going to be a crazy fight, a fun fight, but give me David Anima to get the job done. We've seen this line bouncing around a little bit, touch minus 183, stepping back the other way. Anima's right around a minus 175. And I think that that's a very accurate line. I think that Anima should be the favorite, but not an overwhelming amount of favorite. I think that'd be a little crazy if he was getting up around a minus 220, 230. Then you're really talking about some value on Giga. Because if Giga's head's on straight and he's motivated and really looking to get a W here, he is a talented kickboxer and striker. And Anima has been hurt before in his fights. Okay, he's been touched up in his fights before. You take a look at the numbers here. Yeah, he's landing 5.6, but he's absorbing 5.07. He does get touched up. All right, so be careful what line you're getting there, but I do like Anima to win this fight, and I'm taking a rare decision victory. And the co-main event, we got Lionheart, Anthony Smith, who's still ranked. He's ranked number 15th. This could be his swan song, as they say. I think they say that, right? Swan song? I think that's legit. It's like you're headed out. He's taking on Zhang Ming Yang, a fighter that's burst on the scene as of recently. One of the rare fighters representing China who's up in the upper weight classes. And boy, does he move well. And he's just 26 years old. Every single one of his 18 victories have come by way of finish in the first round. Okay, so you could look at that in 2 ways, right? Of course, it's a great thing if he goes out there and gets that early finish, but how is he going to look in a fight that potentially goes to the later rounds? Now, that's a big if, because is Anthony Smith going to be able to survive the first round against him? But if it does, you better have some question marks in regards to how Zhang is going to look when you have a fighter like Anthony Smith who's crafty and has high-level jiu-jitsu, and he's pulled off the upset even as of recently. We could dissect that fight here in a second, but listen, Anthony Smith, I told you guys I just saw him at UFC 314 down in Miami. They had the little showcase there on the patio of the arena. He was doing his talking and whatnot, and he wouldn't look over. He wouldn't give anybody a cent of attention. I don't really like dudes that are like that. I feel like if I was in that position, I would be turning around. I'd be waving. That's just the type of person I am. You know, I had a couple people bump into me at the arena. And, I love that feeling. Granted, I understand that Anthony Smith has a lot more people going up to him saying, oh, they know you. For me, it's far and few in between. It's usually when I'm at the arena, right? But I love that feeling. I just don't feel that I would ever be the type of guy that would just keep my back to the crowd and people are trying to talk to you and just ignore you for the entire night. So I don't know if he's the most friendly dude. I'm sure he's a good guy, but he just doesn't really... He's not really looking to joke around. He's a serious dude. I mean, he's a fighter. He's taking a lot of damage. Who knows what's going on in his head? I won't hold him to the fire too much for that, but I just will say, turn around and talk to the fans a little bit. All right. And I know they were giving him some real banter. Maybe somebody was yelling to him, hey, if that guy came in my house and I was on top of him, he would have left in a body bag. I mean, maybe somebody was yelling that to him. I don't know who would have said that to him. But, you know what I mean? But people were chirping him a little bit, but have some fun with it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Chael Sonnen he was in great spirits, looking and laughing as I was mentioning. But listen, let me cut to the chase here. Anthony Smith. All right, he's coming off the Dominic Reyes KO loss. He lost to Roman Delize, a middleweight fighter before that. The Vitor Petrino fight, he was able to pull the rabbit out of his hat, pulling off that guillotine choke. Yes, he has slick jiu-jitsu. If we see Zhang push this fight, or if we see Zhang not able to get this fight done in the first round and goes to the later rounds, I do believe that we could see Anthony Smith maybe get a takedown and work some jiu-jitsu and pull off a sub. I want to say that right now. But besides that, I just think that Anthony Smith's going to be in some real trouble here. You take a look at even at this Ryan Spann victory that he had before Petrino, two fights before Petrino. That was a fight that he arguably lost, and that fight looked like it was taking place in slow motion. All right. I mean, you got to go back to the other, his previous victory before that. It was against Ryan Spann where he pulled off a sub. So that was a rematch, and just, I don't put a lot of merit into these names, man. Devin Clark, the Jimmy Crute victory was okay. The Alexander Gustafsson fight, that was a big upset victory for him there. That was a main event, a 5-rounder. That was I believe that might have been Gustafsson's last fight. I forget if he came back one more time, but of course Gustafsson had the name back in the day, but he was on the verge of retiring. And I don't think Anthony Smith is, I think that he's just a little bit of an overrated fighter. He's 36, and I think that he has a lot of mileage on him, and I think that he's going to get hurt in this fight. Okay. So I'll just cut to the chase here. I think he's going to get knocked out. I see the way that Zhang moves. Zhang is just, he's way faster. Now we'll see how he looks in the later rounds, but I don't think it's going to get there. I think that Zhang Mingyang knocks Anthony Smith out in the first round. I think he tallies another first round knockout, adds that to his resume here. Straight up. That's what I see happening. So he's a minus 575. That line is a little wide for my liking. I hope I'm not boring you guys with saying that. I try not to say that for every fight, but minus 575. And you're kind of banking on a fighter to get that first round finish. And if he doesn't, you got this huge ticket in your hand, this 575 ticket with it's not a lot of value on it, and you're going to be stressing out potentially. But yeah, I don't see a lot of value in that line, but we could easily be talking about this in the Prop Edition video with Zhang getting a knockout specifically. Hey guys, real quick, if you don't mind, please take a second to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and go catch me on all my social media. And don't forget, if you want to work with me for my official targets for this card, reach out to me. I'll give you further details there. If you sign up through my referral link, you guys will get my entire slate, or I can give you other details if you just want them straight up from me. Appreciate you guys. What a matchup this is in the main event. Ian Garry takes another short notice match against one of the top dogs in the division in Carlos Prates. You got to tip your hat to Garry, right? People have been poking fun at Garry for a long time, myself included, based on some of his extracurricular activities. But as far as his fighting ability, his fighting spirit, I mean, you have to respect it, right? He just took a short notice match against Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I think he really showed what he's about in that fight. It was a close one, and he, in my opinion, I'll cut to the chase, I think he's the more complete fighter in this matchup. But the problem is Prates is an absolute stud with his stand-up. I think there's no question that Prates on the right night can go out there and knock anybody out in this division. Okay, he's 31 years old. All right, he's very physically mature. All right, he has a lot more experience than people kind of realize because he's newer to the UFC scene. He already has 27 professional fights compared to Gary's 16. All right, he's had his learning experiences, if you will. Right, 6 losses already. Right, he's been subbed 3 times. I mean, there's been some finishing losses early on in his career, but if you actually check the dates, they were a long time ago. Okay, he was a kid, so it depends how you look at that. But at the end of the day, we haven't seen him really go to those champion rounds. We haven't seen him really go late in fights, because when you take a look at the line of work of his resume, you're talking about first round KOs, right? Second round KOs, first round KOs, second round KO, second round KO, dating back to the Dana White's Contender Series victory over Mitch Ramirez, where he got the contract. All right, so he's never even made it to the 3rd round, let alone go to the 4th and 5th rounds. And if you take a look at the level of competition, you really haven't seen him matched up against a high-level grappler. I believe Garry is a high-level grappler. Now, he may not have the best offensive wrestling to get a fight down to the mat, but he has great timing, and he's a very slick striker. And before you know it, he'll be on your back, okay? You guys know what I'm going to talk about. There's no question. I have to bring up the MVP fight, which was an official play of mine. And, MVP has been so good to me, right? In his debut, I took him against Holland. I took him in his last fight, got him at dog odds multiple times, and I faded him when I had Garry here. And, so I've always been right with my MVP calls here. But to that MVP fight, Garry had a dangerous striker in front of him, and we saw he was able to nullify that. Okay, and it came down to that third round where he took his back, he controlled him with some grappling, and he took the fight. All right, I'm not so sure that Garry can't get to Prates' back and the later portion of this fight and maybe sink off a rear naked choke. If you don't realize who Gary's getting in work with, I mean, he's training with Damian Maia, Charles Oliveira. I mean, you're talking about the cream of the crop when you're talking about jiu-jitsu players in the MMA world, okay? You're talking about the best mixed martial artists and a jiu-jitsu and grappling sense in the history of the sport, realistically, right? I mean, I don't know if you want to go there. You tell me who's above a Damian Maia and a Charles Oliveira. I mean, at the very least, at the top of the game, I think that Garry has very high fight IQ, and he's a nasty striker. And I'll tell you another issue that I have with Prates here. Okay, yeah, he is very dangerous offensively, but I'm not going to just forget about the Trevin Giles fight, which was one where he made his UFC debut. And if you guys remember the live odds on that, he was a big favorite. Those lines were closing fast on the live odds based on the fact that Giles was touching him up. Giles was touching him up there. So at times he does get a little, or I shouldn't say at times, in that fight, he did get a little overconfident in his striking. He was touched up. And at the end of the day, he did find a knockout still. And I will give him credit since that fight, the next three were not even able to do anything to him realistically. Raki, the Leech, and Magny. And you could say Magny has some grappling ability, but dude, let's be realistic there. Magny is at the end of the road. He's an aged fighter. He's not the same type of fighter as a Garry, okay? So I just think that Garry is much more complete. And we saw Garry in there with Magny. We saw the difference in their game, okay, as Garry dominated that fight. I thought that Garry, I think this fight went to a split decision, didn't it? Yeah, against Jeff Neal. That was a joke. I thought he dominated Jeff Neal. And the Shavkat fight was very impressive. And I think that fight potentially showcased that Garry and Shavkat, I mean, they arguably maybe the top two fighters in this division. And we got to see everything play out. But I love the striking of Jack Della Maddalena, but I don't think he's as complete as these fighters. We'll see how he looks against Bilal. Bilal's great. He's really putting it together, but we need to see him defend against the highest of level fighters to see if he's really the kingpin of this division. And Gary's just 27 years old. And I think the fact that he's taking this fight on short notice, back-to-back fights, I think that it shows that he has no problem doing that. I think that he's ready to go. I think that he's just fully ready to go, and he knows that. He's not too concerned. The fact that he's doing it in back-to-back fights, you know what I'm saying? Like if it was just that one fight and then he didn't do it again, it's like, oh, he learned from his mistake. He shouldn't have took that fight. It's like, he felt good. He's ready to go. And I think he's a fighter that stays very active, and I'm not the biggest fan of his personality in some aspects, but I really think he's a solid fighter, and he has potential to be a champion in this division before it's all said and done. You take a look at his age. So give me the more complete fighter. And Ian Garry, he could potentially get a KO, but I'll lean towards him digging deep with the jiu-jitsu late in this fight and just weathering the storm early on and taking this fight over in the championship rounds. I love the fact that he just went 25 minutes against, in my opinion, probably the best fighter in this division, Ed Shavkat. So that's how I'm feeling about it. You guys got to hit me up below with a comment and let me know who you guys have winning this fight. I got to know your guys' opinion on the main event. Please let me know who you guys got. I'm going to say Garry gets a rear naked choke in the later portion of this fight. How about that? All right, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. It was great to be back on the mic. I enjoyed this one. Got a lot going on over here, but one of my favorite things to do is to kick these lights on, get on the mic, and get inside your guys' ears and talk some fights. So I'll definitely be excited when this fight card kicks off with the week break in action. We'll be more excited for the fights than we usually are, and I hope all you guys are doing well out there. I'll just leave you guys with some quick little thoughts here. It's cool going to that UFC 314 event, as bumped into a couple of you guys. I had one dude come up to me specifically, if you're listening, man, but just in general, to throw it out there for everybody, it meant a lot to me. He came up and said, how the parting words that I put off at the end of my videos, it means a lot to him. I mean, that was surreal, dude, just walking outside the arena and someone running up, flipping out like that and taking a picture with him and all that. So, and I'm glad that sometimes when I hop on the mic here at the end and give us some parting words, that it does mean something to some of you guys, and it means a lot to me that you guys tune in and listen. So I just hope, you know, everything's going smooth with everyone out there that's listening, because the odds are somebody out there is going through some rough seas, right? When you got thousands of people here we're talking about in our community. So whoever that is, say a prayer for you. Hope all is well. Hope things go good with you moving forward. And you enjoy the fights, man. Enjoy the fights this upcoming weekend. Signing out, Teller.
The Teller.